Moments with God, a time of reflection for every day.
March 26th. Lack of faith. Now Sarai Abram's wife bare him no children, and she had an handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarai said unto Abram, Behold now, the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarai. Genesis 16:1 and 2.
What happens when a married couple has no children? What if they've been trying for years but haven't been able to conceive? What happens if they reach old age and still haven't been able to have children? God had promised Abraham that he would have a descendant, even though he and his wife were already old. But the promise was taking years to be fulfilled, and the desired son had not yet arrived, nor were there any signs that he would. Then his beloved wife Sarah had a brilliant idea, in keeping with the customs of the time. If, as his legitimate wife, she could not bear children for her husband, he could take a second wife, and when the baby was born, she would be present to receive him in her arms, and then the child would be recognized as hers. Sarah then begged her elderly husband to take her servant Hagar, and with her they would have a son. She reasoned that in this way God's promise would be fulfilled, that their descendants would be a great nation.
But that was not God's plan. They showed weakness and a lack of faith, and that decision only made their lives more bitter. For Hagar, when she conceived, began to look down on Sarah and considered herself the mistress of the house. She thought that all of Abraham's wealth would belong to her son, and she stirred up rivalry, and the family unity was broken.
It has never been God's plan for men to take a second wife while their first wife is still alive. Even though the culture, traditions, and customs of the time may have permitted it, it was not in accordance with God's will. Abraham's action was a mistake, even though it was done at the urging of his legitimate wife. For there is nothing more secure for family peace than doing God's will. Their lack of faith led them to follow the pagan custom of polygamy, which would never result in a blessing. Abraham suddenly found himself at a crossroads. His wife threw her servant and child out of the house, and the father's heart broke because he loved him dearly. But even God commanded him to listen to his wife.
The instruction given to Abraham concerning the sanctity of the marriage relationship was meant to be a lesson for all ages. It declares that the rights and happiness of this relationship must be carefully guarded, even at the cost of great sacrifice.
Lack of faith undermines all that is good and beautiful. Even when the steps we take seem like good solutions, they will only tempt us to make a mistake. Therefore, it is always best to follow God's will, in marriage and in every other circumstance. Let faith be the motivation for our actions. Amen.
Thank you for listening to this audio. We invite you to share with your contacts and visit the website BibleWell.com.